The bell rang and you slammed your locker shut. Metal on metal, that echoing clang that filled the hallway along with 100 other voices, sneakers squeaking on linoleum, someone laughing too loud, 2 lockers down. You turn the combination lock one more time out of habit, left, right, grab your backpack and meet your friends at the usual spot. Maybe by the front gates, maybe under that one tree everyone knew. You didn't text them, you didn't check your phone. You just knew they'd be there because that's where you always met. If you went to school in the 70s, 80s, or early 90s, you know there are certain things about those days that stay with you. 7 things, really, that made school feel the way it did back then. This video walks through 7 parts of school life that had nothing to do with grades or tests. The social side, the emotional side, the friendships and first crushes and little moments that made those years unforgettable. If any of this brings back memories, drop a comment and tell me where you went to school. And if you're enjoying this trip back, go ahead and hit that like button. The first thing you'd do when you got to school was find your friends and talk about what you watched the night before. Not what you streamed, not what you binge-watched over the weekend. What aired last night, at a specific time, on a specific channel, because everyone watched the same thing at the same time, and if you missed it, you really missed it. You'd meet at your locker or in the hallway before first period and someone would say, "Did you see it?" And you'd know exactly what they meant. The season finale, the new music video that premiered on MTV, the episode where that character finally kissed that other character. Everyone was talking about it. Literally everyone, teachers, kids in the cafeteria, people you barely knew. If you lived through this, you remember that feeling, the collective experience, the fact that you all saw the same moment at the same time and now you got to dissect it together. There was no spoiler culture because there were no spoilers. You either watched it when it aired or you heard about it the next day at school and felt like you'd missed out on something huge. TV wasn't background noise, it was an event. Thursday night meant one show, Friday night meant another. Saturday morning cartoons were sacred. And when something big happened, a finale, a special episode, a surprise twist, you'd spend the entire next day at school reliving it, reenacting scenes in the hallway, quoting lines, arguing about what it meant. If you're younger, imagine not being able to watch something whenever you wanted. Imagine having to wait a whole week for the next episode and not being able to Google what happens next. That waiting, that anticipation, that shared experience, it made TV feel bigger, more important. And it gave you something to talk about every single morning at your locker. Every group of friends had a spot, not an official spot, not something the school assigned, just a place you all gravitated to without planning it. Maybe it was by the front gates, maybe it was under a specific tree in the courtyard, maybe it was near the parking lot leaning against the bike racks. Wherever it was, that's where you went when the final bell rang. You didn't text, "Meet me there." You didn't check in, you just showed up, because that's what you did, every day. Same time, same place, and your friends would already be there, backpacks on the ground, someone sitting on the curb, someone else standing with their arms crossed, waiting. You'd hang out for a while, delaying the walk home or the bus ride, talking about nothing and everything, making plans. Let's go to the arcade. Let's walk to the corner store. Want to come over later? Sometimes the plans happened, sometimes they didn't, but standing there in that spot with your friends felt like the most important part of the day. If you lived through this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That spot wasn't just a location, it was a ritual, a checkpoint, a place where you transitioned from school mode to real life, and even if you only stood there for 10 minutes, it mattered, because it was yours. The spot changed depending on the weather. In winter, you'd huddle somewhere with a little shelter. In spring, you'd spread out on the grass. In the rain, you'd cram under an overhang, shoulder to shoulder, nobody wanting to leave first. And when summer came and school ended, that spot would sit empty for months. But the next fall, you'd come back, and without saying a word, everyone would go right back to the same place. When the bell rang for lunch or recess, the hallways exploded. Kids poured out of classrooms like water from a dam, voices bouncing off lockers, sneakers squeaking, someone always running even though you weren't supposed to, teachers standing in doorways, arms crossed, trying to maintain some semblance of order. Good luck with that. The playground or courtyard was pure chaos, basketballs flying, someone kicking a soccer ball that would inevitably hit someone else in the face, groups of kids sitting in circles on the grass, passing around contraband candy or trading Pokémon cards or whatever was banned that week. The energy was electric, loud, uncontained. And then there were the pranks, harmless stuff mostly, hiding someone's backpack, tapping a "kick me" sign to someone's back, sneaking out to the vending machine even though you weren't supposed to leave the building, standing in the bathroom longer than necessary just because you could, little acts of rebellion that felt huge at the time. If you'd like a longer, deeper version of this story, tell me in the comments and write longer version. Now, let's keep going. If you lived through this, you remember the adrenaline, the thrill of getting away with something small and stupid, the way your friends would laugh when you pulled it off, the way a teacher would give you that look that said, "I know what you did, but I'm letting it slide this time." The hallway smelled like a mix of floor wax, cafeteria food, and whatever cologne or perfume the popular kids were wearing that year. The lockers clanged, the fluorescent lights buzzed, and in the middle of it all, you and your friends carved out your own little world. A world of inside jokes, dumb pranks, and moments that didn't matter to anyone but you. Not everyone was into sports. Some people found their thing in the drama club, or the school newspaper, or band practice, or the science fair. Whatever it was, that's where you belonged. That's where you found your people. The kids who got you, who liked the same weird stuff you did. Staying after school for rehearsals or club meetings meant something. It wasn't an obligation. It was where you wanted to be. You'd sit in the music room with the rest of the band, instruments out, sheet music scattered everywhere, trying to get through one song without someone messing up. Or you'd be backstage in the auditorium, painting sets, running lines, laughing so hard you forgot what scene you were supposed to be rehearsing. The school newspaper kids had their own corner of the library or a cluttered room full of old computers and stacks of paper. Everyone had a role. Someone wrote, someone edited, someone took photos with an actual camera. You'd sit around a table, arguing about what stories mattered, eating vending machine snacks, staying way later than you needed to just because it was fun. If you lived through this, you know, those after-school hours weren't about padding a college resume. They were about being part of something, having a group, a purpose, a reason to stay at school when you could have been home. And honestly, those were some of the best hours of the week. The science fair was its own beast. You'd spend weeks on a project, testing hypotheses, building volcanoes or circuit boards, writing everything on poster board with markers that bled through the paper. And on presentation day, you'd stand next to your project, nervous and proud, hoping the judges thought it was as cool as you did. Then there were the crushes. Oh, the crushes. You'd see someone in the hallway and your heart would just stop. Maybe it was the way they laughed. Maybe it was the way they leaned against their locker. Maybe it was nothing you could even explain. But suddenly you were walking past their locker 3 times a day, hoping they'd notice you, hoping they wouldn't. And the notes, folded up tight, passed hand to hand during class when the teacher wasn't looking. Sometimes they were from your best friend. Do you like him? Should I talk to her? Sometimes they were from your crush. Meet me after class. Your hands would shake when you unfolded them. Your heart would race. You'd read the same 3 sentences 5 times, trying to decode what they really meant. The notes always had that one question. Do you like me? Yes, no, / maybe. And you'd sit there, pen hovering over the paper, knowing that whatever you circled would change everything, or nothing, but it felt like everything. If you lived through this, you know, you remember writing someone's name in the margins of your notebook, surrounded by hearts. You remember standing by their locker, pretending you were just passing by. You remember the first time they smiled at you and how it felt like the best thing that had ever happened. School dances were where it all came to a head. The gym decorated with streamers and dim lights, a DJ playing slow songs that made everyone awkward, and then finally you'd ask them to dance, or they'd ask you, and you'd stand there barely moving, hands on their shoulders or their waist, not knowing what to say. But it didn't matter, because in that moment everything felt perfect. The walk home was its own world. You and your friends, same route every day, stopping at the same corner store for candy or a soda, stretching out the time before you had to split up and go your separate ways, because once you got home, the day was over, but out here on the sidewalk, it was still going. You'd walk slow, talking about everything. Who said what in 4th period, who was dadding who, what you were doing this weekend. Sometimes you'd stop on a corner and just stand there, talking for 10 more minutes, then 10 more, until someone's mom drove by and honked and you had to go. The bus rides were the same. You'd sit in the back with your friends, the bus lurching and stopping every few blocks, kids getting off one by one until it was just you and maybe one other person. The bus driver never said much, just drove, and you'd stare out the window, watching the neighborhoods go by, replaying the day in your head. If you lived through this, you know, the walk home wasn't just transportation. It was decompression, it was freedom. It was the space between school and home where you could just be. No parents, no teachers, just you and your friends and the open sidewalk. Sometimes you'd take the long way home, cut through a park, stop at someone's house and hang out for a while, call your mom from their phone to let her know where you were. I'll be home by 6. and she'd say okay, and that was that. No tracking, no constant check-ins, just trust. And when you finally got home, tired and happy, you'd drop your backpack by the door and think about tomorrow. Same route, same friends, same corner, and somehow that felt just right. The last day of school hit different. The hallways were loud but different loud, excited, relieved, a little sad. Lockers were emptied, books were returned, and everyone was signing yearbooks. You'd pass yours around and people would write messages in the margins. Have a great summer, stay cool, never change, inside jokes that only made sense to the two of you. You'd take photos with disposable cameras, flash going off, someone always blinking. Group shots in front of the school, pairs of friends with their arms around each other. You'd promise to develop the film and give everyone copies. And sometimes you did, sometimes you forgot, but the photos existed somewhere in a shoebox or a drawer. The building felt strange when it started to empty. Classrooms with bare bulletin boards, hallways that echoed more than usual, teachers smiling, waving goodbye, telling you to have a good summer. You'd walk out those front doors knowing you wouldn't be back for months, and it felt surreal, like the end of something bigger than just a school year. If you lived through this, you know, that mix of excitement and sadness, the relief that it was over, the fear that things would change, that your friends might not be your friends next year, that someone might move away, that the person you sat next to every day might end up in a different class and you drift apart without even meaning to. But for now, you were just happy. Summer stretched out ahead like forever. No homework, no tests, no alarms, just long days and warm nights and the promise that when September came, you'd do it all over again. And honestly, you couldn't wait. Those are the 7 things. If you went to school back then, you probably remember at least some of these. Talking about TV shows the next morning, meeting at the same spot after class, the chaos of recess, finding your people in clubs and projects, first crushes and folded notes, walking home with friends, and that bittersweet last day of school. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. Drop a comment and tell me which one hit hardest for you or what I missed. And if you want the full, longer version, just let me know.